poor maid steals billionaire's Ferrari to save his daughter. What he did next shocked everyone. Before this story begins, tell me in the comments, have you ever been completely underestimated because of how you look? No one at the Lawson estate really noticed Clara. She was 23, slender, with hair always tied back in a neat bun, wearing the same gray uniform every day. To the wealthy guests who came and went, she was just another face in the background, a girl who poured coffee and cleaned rooms. But Clara noticed everything. She noticed how billionaire Alexander Lawson never smiled in the mornings, even when his 7-year-old daughter, Emily, bounded into the dining room to kiss him goodbye before school. She noticed how the other maids avoided speaking to him too, intimidated by his cold stare. And she noticed something else. The little girl was lonely. Clara had grown up with very little, but she knew where it was like to crave attention from a parent who was always too busy. So whenever she could, she'd slip Emily a note in her lunchbox. Tiny drawings, little riddles, even stories she made up about Princess Emily of the Hidden Kingdom. One Friday afternoon, Clara overheard something in the kitchen that made her drop the dish she was drying. 2 security guards were talking in low voices. "Boss doesn't know yet," one whispered, "but that black SUV's been outside the school 2 days in a row. No plates, just sitting there." The other shook his head. "Could be nothing. Still, the kid's an easy target if someone wanted a ransom." Clara's chest tightened. She didn't know much about billionaire life, but she'd seen enough news stories to know how these things could end. That same day, fate forced her into an impossible choice. She had just finished cleaning the upstairs study when she heard shouting from outside, high-pitched, terrified shouting. Emily's voice. Clara ran to the balcony and saw her, 2 men in dark hoodies, dragging Emily toward a van at the edge of the driveway. The guards were nowhere in sight. The only vehicle nearby was Alexander Lawson's bright red Ferrari, parked in the sun like a jewel. Her hands shook. She didn't have the keys. Or did she? She remembered. Mr. Lawson had left his jacket in the study earlier, and she'd hung it up herself. His keys were in the pocket. Without thinking, she grabbed them. If you were Clara, would you risk everything, your job, your future, to take that car without permission? What would you do in this exact situation? Comment your answer before we reveal what happened next. Clara bolted down the stairs, clutching the keys like her life depended on it. She had never driven anything more expensive than a rusty second-hand sedan, but she didn't care. She yanked open the Ferrari's door, slid into the leather seat, and turned the ignition. The engine roared to life like an animal, loud, furious, alive. The men were shoving Emily into the van when they noticed the sound. One cursed and shoved the door closed, while the other jumped into the driver's seat. Clara floored the accelerator. The Ferrari shot forward so fast it nearly threw her back into the seat. Gravel crunched under the tires as she swerved to block the van's path. "Let her go!" she screamed, though she couldn't even hear her own voice over the engine. The van jerked backward, trying to reverse. Clara whipped the Ferrari around, cutting them off again. Emily's terrified eyes met hers through the window. One of the men lunged out of the van, shouting something she couldn't make out. He had a crowbar in his hand. Clara's heart hammered. She revved the engine again, loud enough for him to hesitate. Then, with a sudden move she didn't think twice about, she drove straight at him. The man jumped out of the way, tripping over himself and falling onto the gravel. The other man panicked, flung the van door open, and shoved Emily out before peeling away down the road. Clara jumped out of the Ferrari and caught Emily in her arms, holding her tight. The little girl sobbed into her shoulder. Sirens wailed in the distance. Clara didn't know if they were coming for the kidnappers or for her. By the time Alexander Lawson arrived, furious, his voice like ice, Clara was standing beside the Ferrari, still holding his daughter. "You, my office, now." Clara stood in the billionaire's office, still shaking. Emily was upstairs with the family doctor, and Alexander was behind his desk, his hands pressed together like he was holding back an explosion. "You stole my car," he said slowly, every word a razor. Clara swallowed hard. I did. Because Because you saw an opportunity? His voice was cold enough to freeze the air. You think saving her excuses you from breaking the law? Do you have any idea what that car is worth? Her chest burned. I don't care what it's worth. Your daughter was about to be taken. There was no one else. I pay for security. If they failed, that's their job on the line, not yours. Clara took a step forward, trembling. If I had waited for your security, Emily would be gone right now. He stood, towering over her. And if you had crashed that car, if you had gotten her killed? She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. For a moment she thought she might cry, until the office door burst open. Emily stood there, eyes red from crying, but her voice steady. Daddy, stop yelling at her! Alexander turned. Emily. She saved me, the girl said, walking in. They were going to take me, and she was the only one who came. You should be saying thank you. The room went still. Alexander's jaw tightened, his gaze shifting between his daughter and Clara. Finally, he said, Leave us, Emily. When the girl reluctantly stepped out, he looked back at Clara, and his next words weren't what she expected. You have exactly 1 week to tell me the truth. Who sent you? Her stomach dropped. What? You heard me. I don't believe you just happened to be there, and until I find out why you're really in my house, you're not leaving my sight. You have 1 week to tell me who sent you, Alexander said, his voice low, controlled, dangerous. Clara kept her eyes on the floor. Yes, sir. From that day, the billionaire didn't let the maid out of his sight. He moved her out of the staff wing and into a small room near his office. She cleaned the same floors of the mansion, but this time with a security shadow following 3 steps behind. Every door beeped when she passed. Every camera tracked her. The luxury estate had always felt big. Now it felt like a glass cage. Only Emily was the same. Will you still do the lunchbox riddles? She asked, swinging her legs from the breakfast stool. If your dad says it's okay, Clara answered, glancing at Alexander. He said nothing, then slid a napkin toward Clara. Riddle away. Every night after Emily fell asleep, Alexander met with his private investigator, Raul Vega. They spread photos across the table. The black van, the gravel skid marks, the broken branch where someone had climbed over the side fence. Raul moved like a surgeon around a quiet patient. He spoke in quick, neat sentences. The Ferrari's rear bumper has a scratch, Raul said on the 3rd night. You didn't report it. Alexander's jaw tightened. Because I didn't make it. Raul held up a fingertip-sized piece of plastic. Tracker, tucked behind the taillight. Whoever planned the kidnapping tracked your cars for days. This wasn't random. Alexander turned to Clara. Why were my keys in your hand before the guards? Because they were in your jacket, she answered, her voice cold and steady. Where you always leave them on Fridays. His eyes narrowed. You pay attention. I used to fix scooters with my uncle, she said softly. You learn to notice the little things, like the SUV that watched the mansion gates the day before Emily was taken. It had a dent on the left door. The plate had a 7 and a W. She didn't know what else to do, so she drew it. Raul's head snapped up. You saw the plate? 1 blank box, 7, W, 2 more blank boxes. Alexander took the page. The corner of his mouth moved. Not a smile, but not anger either. That afternoon, he called the head of security into his office. Your team missed a tracker on my car and a van at my gate, he said coldly. Why? The captain, a compact man named Reyes, swallowed. We were, short-staffed, sir. On a Friday? Alexander's voice chilled the air. Then take Saturday off, all of you, indefinitely. Reyes's face fell. Sir, please. Your rotation schedule put my daughter in a blind spot. Blind spots get people kidnapped. When Reyes left, Clara spoke before she could stop herself. He looked sorry. Alexander stared out the window at the manicured gardens. Sorry doesn't put a child back in her bed. That night, Emily padded downstairs in pink socks, hair messy from sleep. Daddy! He knelt. What is it, Em? She rubbed her eyes. "Can Clara lay a story? The one about Princess Emily of the Hidden Kingdom?" He glanced at Clara. She stood very still, hands folded. "Please," Emily whispered. Alexander nodded once. One story. Clara read from a thin, frayed notebook she carried like a secret. Her voice was warm and patient. The princess didn't win with swords. She won with courage and riddles. Emily fell asleep on the couch halfway through, clutching a paper crown Clara had folded from a receipt. Alexander lifted his daughter carefully. At the stairs he paused, looking back over his shoulder at the maid who had stolen a Ferrari and returned his daughter breathing. "Why are you really here?" he asked in a whisper. Clara's eyes shone. "To work hard, to..."
The next morning, an envelope arrived at the mansion. No return address. Inside was a single page. 2 photos of Clara, one at the Ferrari, one holding Emily, and 6 words cut from a magazine like a ransom note. "Pay 50 million or she's next." Alexander folded the page slowly. "So it's a ransom," he said. Raoul shook his head. "No account number, no drop point. This isn't a demand." He tapped the photos. "It's a warning." "From who?" Clara whispered. Raoul's eyes moved to the edge of the page. There was a tiny smudge of blue ink, barely visible. "Someone who knows your foundation stationery." Alexander's face turned to stone. By noon, news vans idled outside the gates. A blog had posted grainy security footage of the Ferrari roaring across the driveway. The headline screamed, "Maid steals billionaire supercar. Kidnapping hoax?" Reporters shouted questions at uniformed guards. And then the police arrived. "Mr. Lawson," the lead officer said carefully at the door, "we have a warrant to bring Ms. Clara Santos in for questioning." His eyes flicked to Clara. "Vehicle theft, endangerment, possible complicity." Clara's stomach dropped to the floor. "I didn't—" "It's okay," Alexander said calmly. Then to the officer, "Who filed the complaint?" "Anonymous tip, sir, but the footage is real." Clara turned to Alexander. He studied her face like he was solving a puzzle only he could see. A whisper passed through the staff gathered in the hall. The cook crossed herself. One of the junior maids sobbed quietly. Emily appeared at the top of the stairs, white-knuckled on the banister. "Daddy," she cried, "don't let them take her." The officer looked uncomfortable. "Sir, we can do this quietly if you prefer." Alexander breathed in once, deep and slow, like a diver about to go under. "Everyone listen," he said, his voice carrying through the marble foyer. "Clara Santos acted under my directive." The entire hallway froze. The officer blinked. "I'm sorry?" Alexander stepped forward. "I told her to take the car. I told her to block the van. I told her to do whatever it took to stop the kidnapping. If you arrest her, you'll arrest me as well. Those are my official instructions as the child's father and as the homeowner." Clara just stared at him. "You, what?" He didn't look at her. He never looked at anyone when he was delivering orders. "My attorney is on his way. Until then, if you need a statement, take mine." He lifted his wrists as if ready for cuffs. The lead officer's jaw worked. He glanced at the child on the stairs, at the billionaire who could buy a city block in cash, at the maid who looked like a ghost in gray. He lowered his voice. "Sir, we can postpone the formalities until counsel arrives, but we do need to speak with Miss Santos at the station." "I'll go with her," Alexander said. "And so will my daughter." Emily ran down the stairs. "I'm not leaving Clara." The officer hesitated. "The station isn't safe for—" "It's safe if I'm there," Alexander cut in, calling for the car. "We're coming." The drive downtown was silent. In the back seat, Emily held Clara's hand like a lifeline. Alexander's phone buzzed non-stop. Board members, donors, the head of security, his PR team. He ignored them all until a name flashed, Bia de la Cruz, cleaning agency. Clara's breath hitched. "That's my old manager." Alexander answered on speaker. "This is Lawson." A nervous voice spilled through the car. "Mr. Lawson, I don't know who else to call. 2 men came to the agency asking about Clara's schedule, where she works, where she sleeps. They had badges, said they were with your foundation. They weren't." Alexander's hand tightened on the wheel. "What did they look like?" "Tall, One with a scar here, Bea said, tapping her cheek audibly, and a snake tattoo around his wrist. Clara sat up straight, eyes wide. "That's him," she whispered. "The man with the crowbar." "Lock your doors," Alexander ordered. "If they come back, call this number." He sent Raoul's direct line and killed the call. At the station, the questioning was short, clinical, recorded. Clara told them everything: the screaming, the Ferrari, the van, the way the man flinched at the engine's roar. She didn't embellish, she didn't cry. She answered every question twice, and then once more for the detective who arrived late. When they left the station, it was already dark. A drizzle turned the sidewalk silver. Near the curb, Emily squeezed Clara's hand again. "I knew Daddy would protect you," she said with the certainty of a child who believes in good endings. Clara smiled weakly. "I didn't." From the driver's seat, Alexander spoke without turning. "Don't get used to it," he said, and then, after a beat, more softly, "But I keep my word." They were 3 blocks from the mansion when a message blinked onto the dashboard screen, forcing itself past Alexander's privacy settings. "You're looking in the wrong house. Check your family first. Auntieibee." Emily gasped. "Daddy, Auntie B texted you?" Alexander slammed the brakes. "Who is Auntie B?" Emily's voice trembled. She gives me gummy bears at school sometimes. She says not to tell you because you'd be mad." Clara and Alexander exchanged a look that felt like a door opening into a storm. Back at the mansion, the house was quieter than usual. News vans were gone. Security lights glowed along the hedges. Raoul was waiting in the library with a tablet and a grim face. "I traced the message," he said, not bothering with greetings. "It bounced through 3 prepaid routers and a hotel Wi-Fi, but the first login happened right outside Emily's school this morning." Alexander looked at Emily. "When you say Auntie B gave you gummy bears, how many times?" Emily's lower lip trembled. 3. She said not to tell you because you'd be mad." "What does she look like?" Clara asked gently. Emily thought hard, then reached for Clara's notebook and drew, not a stick figure, a careful sketch. Short hair, sharp chin, big sunglasses, a little scar near the eyebrow. Raoul slid a photo across the table. "Like this?" Emily nodded slowly. "Yes." Raoul exhaled. "Her name is Beatrice Ward, former PR director at the Lawson Foundation, fired 2 years ago after a data leak we could never trace." He glanced at Alexander. "Your wife trusted her. Everyone did." Clara's throat dried. "Beatrice, B, that's the name of my agency manager. But that's not the same woman who just called. My B is older, rounder, very sweet. She would never—" "Different B," Raoul said. "Same nickname." Emily hugged herself. "I didn't know." Alexander knelt in front of his daughter, voice gentle for the first time all day. "None of this is your fault. Do you understand me?" She nodded, eyes glassy. Raoul tapped the tablet again. "There's more. The plate sketch Clara made, I ran it through partial match databases. Van belongs to a shell company called Ardent Harbor Logistics. Guess who services their insurance and guard contracts?" "Don't say it," Alexander muttered. Raoul said it anyway. "Grant Mercer." A cold silence spread. Grant Mercer was the one man Alexander had trusted with boring but vital parts of his world: security contracts, risk management, compliance, insurance. The plumbing of power, the places no one looked. Clara spoke, voice small. "So the kidnapping was an inside job." Alexander's eyes darkened. It was an inside war. They were still absorbing this when a chime echoed through the mansion. The doorbell, soft and polite, like any normal night. A guard answered, then hurried down the hall. "Sir, we have a visitor." A woman stepped into the lamplight. Short hair, sharp chin, a faint scar near the eyebrow. She carried nothing but a vintage leather handbag and a smile you couldn't trust. "Hello, Alex," she said sweetly. "B missed you." Emily's fingers dug into Clara's sleeve. "Auntie B." Raoul shifted for the gun he was licensed to carry, but Beatrice raised one empty hand. "Relax, I'm not here to fight." She opened the handbag and pulled out something small, metal, and terribly familiar, a Ferrari key fob.
She set it on the table like a chess move. "I'm here to give back what I borrowed." Clara stared. You took the keys?" "Not quite," Bee purred. "I placed them right where our careful maid would find them at the exact moment she needed them. Consider it encouragement." Alexander's voice lowered. "You planned Emily's kidnapping?" Bee's smile didn't change. "Kidnapping is such an ugly word. I prefer transfer of custody. A father too busy to notice. A friend who actually loved the little girl. A boardroom tired of your Iron Throne. Everyone wins." "Everyone but Emily," Clara said. Her hands were shaking, but her voice wasn't. Bee finally looked straight at Clara. "Oh, sweet thing, you were perfect. Poor background, spotless heart, fast hands, faster feet. A Ferrari that looked stolen on camera. If Alex didn't break, the police would. If he did break, the board would. Either way, the story writes itself." Emily pressed closer to Clara. "Don't talk to her like that." Bee's gaze slid back to Alexander. "Decide quickly. I'm giving you one trade. The board meeting is tomorrow morning. Step down quietly, sign the transition papers, and Emily lives a peaceful, private life. Refuse, and the next van won't stop at the driveway." Raoul moved again. Bee sighed, bored. "Shoot me, and a courier presses on send on everything you've tried to hide for years." Alexander's eyes hardened. "I don't hide." Bee's lips curled. "No? Then you won't mind if I invite an old friend to join us." From the foyer, a new voice drifted in. Warm, weary, and devastatingly familiar.